box or checklist exercise. It is a critical investment area where organizations can realize mouth-watering ROIs and competitive advantage. The adoption of sustainable building practices has surged, focusing on reducing carbon emission, minimizing waste, and improving energy efficiency. And obviously, startups and their innovative solutions play a very significant role in making it happen. And that's why we wanted to bring some subject matter experts to discuss this topic at length. Hi, this is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a deep tech revenue scaler and fund based in Singapore with approximately 100 startups in the portfolio from different parts of the world, stages, and sectors. We are thrilled to host this panel in collaboration with Spintly, a new startup in our portfolio. Now, I would request our esteemed panelists to introduce themselves so that we can learn more about their organization, their sustainable practices, and get inspired. LK, may I start with you? Could you please do a brief intro?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, I guess. I guess we have people from all around the world. So my name is Alka. I'm heading up sustainability consulting within DLL, and that means that I'm working with investor and occupier clients to drive and embed sustainability in their real estate practices and processes. So I actually have a background in energy and clean tech startups. So I'm very happy to be part of this because I personally believe that the built environment and the energy environment come together in order to drive sustainability in the real estate sector.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Alka. Appreciate it. And because you have been in this startup ecosystem as well as you understand the technology and sustainability, I think it would be a very fantastic conversation today. So appreciate your time, Alka. Shraddha, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Shraddha here, Shraddha Masli. I am currently with Schneider Electric. I am the General Manager, Digital Services, and I have been throughout into digitization. And that's been my forte. Over 17 years of experience in the IoT platforming, M2M, and anything to do with the digitization in buildings and industries. So that's what I take care of, and that's been my passion. From sustainability perspective, I think sustainability is across, when we talk about digitization, when we talk about anything, that we live through, sustainability is a part of our life. So at Schneider Electric, we are also very focused around sustainability, and we have, a net zero target to achieve by 2050, and we're all geared towards, working towards making ourselves sustainable and our customers sustainable. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Shraddha. And I know that Schneider is running a lot of initiatives to achieve net zero for yourself and for your customers. So fantastic to have you on the panel. Amin, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Hello, everyone, and wish you a lovely day. My name is Amin Majali. I'm a certified international property specialist. Specialize in the digital transforming. We're mainly focused on the investment part in the tokenization, blockchain, and AI. One of the most important challenges in the real estate sector is the adoption, and make sure that as a real estate developers or let's say users, they are open for this type of investment, okay, and more accessibility and more options for the market. So basically, we focus on the tokenization, such as creating platforms and focus on the sustainable smart cities and buildings in a way where we allow developers to get, let's say, more access for liquidity and be more open to focus on these type of projects. Thank you.
Fantastic, Amin, and good to have somebody who has background in blockchain and tokenization for the real estate world. So appreciate your time today. Sandhya, please.
Hey, hi, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon also. So I'm Sandhya. I head the sustainability function in Space Matrix. We are a modern workplace design and build solution providers for our corporate clients. I have been with Space Matrix for almost 13 years now, and we have championed many projects for our clients in making them much greener, healthier, And also as a conscious corporate, we are also have taken our corporate sustainability journey, and we are doing a lot of programs to make ourselves greener, at the same time to our projects or our clients to give that benefit of our service.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot. And probably our audience will be able to appreciate this, that our panel is extremely diverse, not only from the geographical perspective, but also from the expertise, the industry perspective. So again, thanks a lot, all the panelists, for joining in today. Now I would request Rohan, CEO and founder of Spintly and moderator of today's event, to introduce himself. Please, Rohan.
Hey, thanks, Pankaj. This is probably one of the most diverse panels I'm on and across the globe. So really an honor to be moderating this panel. A little bit about myself. I'm co-founder and CEO of Spintly. By way of introduction, my background is I'm an engineer by trade. I started my career in 2002. Spent a lot of time in the wireless technology space, developing different wireless technologies, work with companies like Motorola, Nokia, Broadcom. And then in 2018, decided to jump into entrepreneurship, started this company with my co-founder, Malcolm D'Souza. And we are in the space of the smart building solutions using our distributed IoT architecture. And we launched our first use case, which is access control using distributed architectures, and currently focused on scaling Spintly.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Rohan. And I know that you have prepared some really exciting questions for the panel. So why don't we start with those questions and start getting the insights from the panelists? Please go ahead.
Yeah, great. I mean, I have a bunch of questions, especially after the introductions. I have more questions, but probably we can keep them for later. So I think the first question is obviously about adoption of sustainability. Everybody talks about sustainability, that it's important, but there are a lot of challenges, right, when it comes to making a building sustainable. So what, in your opinion, maybe I'll start with Shraddha. What in your opinion are the major roadblocks or the biggest roadblocks in the way of sustainability for built world?
Right. So, so basically, I can start with the fact, I was recently, reading the book of Bill Gates of how to avoid climate disaster, and that it's mentioned that, soda is 3 times more expensive than fuel, right? And then oil, basically. So that's basically where it starts. It starts that the fossil fuels are quite cost, less in cost as compared to anything else that's available. So that's where it starts. It's not about making the fossil fuels more expensive, but how can we also work around and make the alternative sources of energy being more available, more lesser in terms of adoption of cost. So to answer your question, Rohit, I can probably put it in 3 categories, basically, like what I can think of. One is from the commercial aspect, like what I started with. It has to be adaptable by by most of the organizations. So there has to be a lot of funding that needs to go into into biofuels or any such technologies, and it has to be available. It has to be scalable. So to kind of make sure that we are in the organizations are willing to invest into it. Second is in terms of the regulatory aspect. Right. So there are a lot of inconsistent regulations that are there. Incentivization is not very standard, or it's not very clear. Like incentivizing people who are organizations who are taking actions and penalizing them who are not taking actions. Right. So if we are kind of doing that, like for example, there are no minimum standards in terms of efficiency in air conditioning. Right. If I'm talking about that. Right. So that's where it comes from. And the third aspect is more human, aspect. So in terms of creating awareness about, what are the impact about if we are not taking action from a sustainability perspective, or also there is a lot of resistance, to change that happens. So how do we take care of those softer aspects, right? How do we not just focus on short-term benefits and then focus on more on the long-term gain, right? So that's basically how I would put it. So the roadblocks for me would kind of fall in either of these three buckets.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for the insights. I think broadly, I think unless it becomes cost viable for people, people won't adopt it. So that's when you need regulations. So I bring the same question to LK. Maybe you can give your insights, or maybe focus on specific roadblocks which you've personally faced.
Yeah, and I think the strategy you brought up a lot of good things already. Now, I think you mentioned briefly the short term versus the long term, and I think that's where one of the big challenges comes in. That we're expecting to see a ROI in terms of payback, whereas actually a payback in terms of operational costs, whereas actually very often there is a capex investment needed at the beginning, which may not materialize until either when you're selling a building, if you're looking at it from an owner perspective. So what we see is that very often a building owner, when they acquire a building, they assume that it will be holding the asset for a couple of years. In that period, at the beginning of the acquisition, they'll prepare what the capex plan is going to be. Now, a lot of the investments that are required for net zero carbon were not taken into consideration. So as a consequence, there is additional budget necessary that's needed that may not be available in the fund, for example. Equally so, it may not materialize within the hold period because the payback time might be 10 years, might be 15 years, depending on what you're doing. Whereas actually they will only hold the asset for 5 years and they'll be selling it off. So then what you would be looking for is that you'll be looking for a premium in the market for a sustainable building. Now, unfortunately, we don't really see that in APAC yet. There is some evidence, there is some empirical evidence from Europe that we start to see this, but the reality today is that it's not there. So I think it's that time, there's a time element very much involved here as well that impacts the financial business case. And that's how we see that decisions are sometimes being postponed. Another very challenging part is that sometimes the actual benefits are not being received by the person that invests. So some of the investments in upgrading of the building, particularly the BMS system, or in the benefits are split over landlords and tenants. So how do you actually deal with those kind of benefits? Landlord pays for it, but it's the tenant that actually receives the benefits. So again, it's a commercial incentive that's wrong, and you need to basically change the way that you sign the leases in order to overcome that. So I think there is a lot that in order to be able to embed sustainability in the real estate sector, it's not just about making investment, it's also about changing the business model. So there is a business model innovation component that's required in order to be successful.
Excellent. I think that's a great point. Go to Sandhya from Space Matrix. I mean, in fact, we have worked with Space Matrix and we've been in touch. We spoke to Rishabh as well. You guys design modern spaces. So what do you guys face when it comes to designing sustainable spaces? What are the challenges you guys face?
Yeah, good to know about your connection with Space Matrix, Rohin. So personally, I believe that sustainability mantra is about doing less harm is good, but doing more good is much better for the current situation. So I would say that lack of envisioning is the major roadblock for sustainable transformation. Though we have seen that there are more number of projects that are going for certification, be it LEED, Green Mark, they are aiming for a higher level of certification, but somewhere we do not think beyond those things. We can look at it from the perspective that we should have better benchmarks. Benchmarks is not only about gold or platinum. We can even look at, say, EPI, how much EPI I should fix for my building. Is it good enough, or I want to go beyond the standards, or should I have water savings or waste generation benchmarking better than the standards? How we define the budget or timelines or number of floors while designing, I think we should also clearly define the sustainability targets for the projects and make everyone responsible for it. This is something I would foresee in the coming years at least, so that we are breaking the barriers. In addition to that, lack of data, I would say, if I need to perform, say, building life cycle impact assessment in the early design stage to take better decisions, I might not get access to the right set of data. So that is something very challenging. Maybe in the West, it is not that hard to get the right set of data, be it environmental product declarations or technical data sheets. For building materials, maybe for technological elements, it is still available. The third roadblock, I would say, is right product design methodologies are not being followed. Maybe we look at just the functionality or the aesthetics or the performance of the products. We should think beyond that. We should see how it is going to be refurbished. If I add certain elements, will it make the product better in terms of upcycling or putting back to the circular economy? So these are some of the aspects which would call for research and development in the sector, or having more and more startups doing things better for the sustainability for buildings. So that is my view on this.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I think startups would play a role. I have a specific question regarding that later. Thanks for your inputs on that. We'll come to Amin. You are in probably one of the regions which is growing, the fastest growing region in terms of real estate. Huge projects going in the Middle East region. What's been your experience in terms of sustainability and roadblocks which you face in that region?
Well, when we look at the sustainability in a part where by 2030, the global, what we call it, bill, when it comes for sustainability to reach up to $30 trillion. So this part of what we call it educational in different levels. Okay. What's in it for us? What's in it for the upcoming generations? Okay, what we can do for the current project or the current, let's say, real estate, what we can do for the upcoming projects. Okay, this is something that go beyond of what we call it. One part, real estate is a value chain. Okay, we talk about home and commercial where we spend our life in it. So the idea it comes where it's a public-private partnership, and it comes for educational part. One of the challenges, or what I call it, things that should we work on it, which we call it to have a one language. Like as a real estate expert, when I start going into sustainability, I face a challenge, which is I'm not understanding the language. Okay, when I understand the language, I understand the value of what does these things affect my life. Okay, so when it comes for, let's say, social responsible investment, today we can educate developers about the social responsible investment and the government that these things can affect our life, change. Okay, it comes for what we call it regenerative finance. Elka mentioned something very important, which is, okay, the business model. Like today, when we look at the tokenization, it helps us in looking for, especially in the startups, when it comes for shared economy. Okay, let's be very honest. Shared assets are very important. It's costly. It's not costly. It's not profitable for the developer. Okay, but when we look at it from a shared economy where we force those real estate, let's say, developers, or let's say the decision maker in a way where, guys, if it's a liquidity problem, if it's a funding problem, we will provide, but I want to make sure that you match the standards. Okay, so the idea, let's say, of how to create the new business model, which focus mainly on those smart buildings, smart cities, or implementing those technologies in the current projects.
Yeah, I'm great. I think business model, you guys both spoke about LK and you, I think is the key part which might take away is because you can have like OPEX models so that people spend money, but they don't have to pay CAPEX on implementing these things. I think that could be a huge driving force.
If I may jump in, this is one very common sort of complaint that I hear from the industry leaders that, hey, startups just keep talking about their own product, their own solution. They don't really translate that solution benefit into the quantified value prop for the ROI for these industry leaders. And I think as a startup ecosystem, we need to really improve on translating that into the quantified value prop ROI for the business leaders so that they can make more intelligent decisions with those solutions. So thanks a lot for mentioning that.
Yeah. Thanks. I think
I think LK wanted to chime in.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, right? I think it's always being on that startup side, it's hard to understand how organizations are really organized and who can take decisions and to what extent can they spend CAPEX or OPEX, or who holds the budget and who gets the benefit. Actually, even it's not just within the building, it's also within an organization who holds the budget and who's getting the recognition for something like that. And I think that's very hard. I mean, going back to my time trying to sell energy management solutions, like we were knocking on doors of property managers, and they didn't care. They absolutely did not. Well, it's not that they don't care, but it's beyond their normal scope of business, and it starts to be embedded now in their role that they need to start to look and drive sustainability in the building. But it's actually the owner of the building that has tasked the property manager to keep the costs down as much as possible. So they don't have the right incentives. So you actually need to go to the asset manager in order to be able to have these kind of conversations. Or again, it's a change of business model in terms of how the asset manager tasks the property manager to deal with this.
Yeah, since you're on, Elk, I'll follow up with my next question. I can already see I'm going to get roasted today pretty badly on on the next session, given the depth of the knowledge you guys have. But I mean, if you have to pick, I'm going to mix up the questions a little bit. If because sustainability starts from even building, there's a lot of places where you can think about sustainability, right? But probably 90% of the real estate already is constructed, or that's where the problem is, right? How do you convert it into? So what are the technologies which you see which can have biggest impact on existing real estate? How do you make them sustainable?
LK?
Oh, you're asking me? I have a big mouth.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. No. I think it's a fair question. I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, the reality is that the majority of the buildings that exist today will exist in the next 20 years as well. So, and as a consequence, there is that enormous need for asset enhancement. At the moment, we're not going fast enough. That's the reality. We did a bit of research in terms of what is the supply-demand gap. If everyone that has a net zero carbon target wants to occupy sustainable buildings, there is at least a doubling necessary of the number of sustainable buildings, actually often a lot more even. So how can you achieve that now? I mean, if we step away from just purely IoT, like definitely something around the renewables, obviously. Let's be honest, office buildings though are very hard to do a lot with. In urban areas, small rooftops, BIPV, not very efficient, and a lot of challenges in terms of installation. But if we go inside the building, I think the focus for everyone is obviously one, the BMS system from the common areas, how to use all the data, whether it's the occupancy data, whether it's the indoor air quality, etc., to optimize the BMS system, both in terms of how it's being operated, as well as the predictive maintenance that stops you from using more energy than needed if equipment is not working. And I think that you're going to talk a lot about that later, Rowan. So very glad to see that. It's also the integration with the grid. Obviously, how do you integrate with the grid to drive that sustainability as well? What people often underestimate, though, is the impact of tenants. So tenants tend to consume 50% of the energy in a building, which is enormous, which is not just, it can partly be solved with technology, but there is a large piece of behavioral change as well that is needed in order to achieve that. and obviously you can incentivize the users of a building using technology. But I think to me, it really is a BMS system and ensuring that within occupied space, there is a behavioral change aspect as much as possible as well.
Great. Yeah, I think this is something which is of great interest to me. I see Amin had raised his hand. Amin, I could go to you next with the same question on what technologies you think will have biggest impact on the real estate.
I just want to refine the question, which is which technology to which part? Because when we talk about sustainability, okay, it's see, real estate is the main chain of the whole economy. Okay, I talk about industrial, educational, hospitality, retail. Okay, like Elkas, you mentioned when it comes for residential. Okay, so it will require a laser focus in, let's say, which part. Let's say, for example, building smart cities. Okay, building smart cities will also to require from us what we call it collaboration, because we will look at the climate, we'll look at funding, we'll look at investment, we'll look at what extra or what capabilities we can put in those type of projects. The good thing is we just live in 10% of the whole available land in the world. There's so much spaces. Okay, we can collaborate on it. Like you mentioned one of the points, which as a Middle East, let's say, or Dubai, we're going economy. Okay, we have a huge land when it comes for expanding. So we look in the collaboration of, hey, let's start building new cities, and those new cities where we can provide better transportation solution. Okay, when it comes for more greenery, to make sure that we can give a big, let's say, less carbon credit. We look also what we call it as a organizations who's interested to align their investment in these kind of product. Okay, there's a lot of companies worldwide, like let's say solar energy factory, they're building, but they're looking for somebody in a BOT program, which is build, operate, transfer. So when we define what say which part of sustainability, what is our target audience or the end beneficiary out of that, will be clear to give you a better answer.
Yeah, I think it's that big. It really depends on the type of real estate, right? But broadly, I'll take this question to Sandhya, because everybody will have a different perspective based on what their background is and what problems they have faced. So, Sandhya, in your opinion, I think what are the technologies? Because the question is mainly related existing real estate, right? Because that's where a lot of energy is getting consumed already, right? The real estate is already built. What are the technologies which you think can have impact, where you can improve energy consumption or reduce energy consumption and have an impact on sustainability?
Yeah, I believe we should start measuring the impact first if it is not being done. So softer integration of technologies in the form of, say, smart meters or sensors, which would give the real-time data to the facility managers. And then start looking at retrofit options wherever feasible with adaptive reuse concept. It is not like everything needs to be upgraded, but we can have a consolidated approach to address each and every say drawbacks of the existing assets, and then have the investments or have the technology integration approved for the whole process. I think that's where we can start with. And whenever we get to do retrofit, we should definitely start using the smart design solutions like BIM modeling, building information modeling along with digital twins, which could actually talk to the real-time data, right? The model, the virtual model would talk to the real-time physical world and start giving the data for better action. So that is something I would foresee happening.
Excellent. I already see some business happening here because you're looking at sensors, data collection. So, but I'll take this question to Shraddha. Schneider Electric is one of the leaders in smart building solutions. What has been your experience, and what are the technologies Schneider especially is looking at in terms of making existing buildings sustainable?
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think good points. I think that were already spoken by earlier panelists. I think it's been almost covered. So I agree that as far as we can able to measure what we are consuming, at least we know how much that we need to work towards reduction in the energy part of it. From Schneider perspective, yes, we have we are working on a lot of technologies that help our customers and ourselves get to the path of sustainability. Especially from, I would like to bring out, apart from what the other panelists have already spoken, in terms of how AI and data analytics and ML and all of these technologies incorporated into the solutions that's there, which is very much retrofittable because the data is already present. So if you're talking about like a building automation system, or we're talking about any energy management system or anything, the data is already there. Applying the advanced analytics, we have FDD that we talk about, fault detection and diagnostics. We're talking about a lot of AI/ML based tools that will help in terms of reaching the sustainability goals, that help to the organizations to understand which part of they are building, or which part of their energy expense needs more focus as compared to the other, right? So that's basically where it is. It's mainly going more and more towards applying digital twin that Sandhya spoke about some time back, and how all of this then can be interoperable as well. Because where I see from a very practical standpoint, right? I go to customers and visit them. I've also visited BMS rooms, and they are very basic. At least in India, wherever I've most of the places, it's very basic. It's at the max just controlling the HVAC, right? But we are actually talking much more than that from a technology standpoint, from where we come from, but how that futuristic thing can be integrated to the existing building, how it can be made backward integration possible, right? With existing systems, with existing assets that is there, rather than just rip and replace, that's not being possible. So that is something that is also what Schneider is driving towards from an existing buildings perspective.
Yeah, great.
So
Thank
yeah, Rohin, I think one more point I just wanted to bring in when we are talking about technology, and that there's something that came in while I was just reading about what is going on from the sustainability perspective in the buildings. And I think from a disruptive technology perspective, if there is more available technologies from a carbon capture space, right, where we are using the carbon that's emitting outside, carbon dioxide that's emitting outside from the buildings, converting it into some form and then storing it, rather than pushing it out into the environment. So there is some amount of thing that's already being done, but I think if that's something that can be done at every building level, right, that would definitely be disruptive.
Great. Thanks, Shraddha. The next question is specific to net zero. Everybody talks about net zero. You said, Shraddha, that net zero by 2050. I'll take this question to probably Sandhya to start with this time. Do you think we are close to net zero? Do you think net zero is possible? Can a building be fully net zero? If not today, how soon do you think we can have a net zero building?
Yes, so I would like to start with the clear definition of net zero, because this is vaguely used in the industry. Because if we just say net zero building, I think that is not sufficient. We should mention, is it net zero energy, net zero carbon, or net zero water, to be very specific. Yes, all of them can be achieved, maybe a little later in the decade, or I'm not sure, because each type of building or each context of the building would be addressed very differently. if it is a big campus where you have all the luxury to have on-site energy sources or greener grids, so then it is much easier to become net zero carbon or energy. But if it is about net zero water, I think we should rely on the sources, rainfall, right? If we are not blessed with good rainfall, then we can't become net zero water building. So there are very different components to be considered when we say that. But if it is about corporates, if I'm committing, or if Space Matrix is committed to net zero, that means we would be addressing our value chain also. It's not only about our efforts, how much ever we dream about net zero, until and unless our value chain becomes greener, it becomes very hard. So I think everything is doable uh, if we envision for those things, and if we work towards that collectively.
Yeah, great. I mean, great points about net zero. I never thought about net zero water and other aspects of net zero. So I'll bring the same question to LK. What's your thought on net zero? How far are we from that, or is that a
Well,
reality?
I'm with Sanjay. I think that there is not a single definition of net zero. Even when we say net zero carbon, some people that follow particular frameworks will have to first get to an EUI target, or at least save X% of energy, for example. So the reality today is that there is not a single definition, and that makes it really hard. So everyone is defining its own targets for what net zero carbon means to them, which in return makes it harder to market and actually commercialize the value of net zero. But I agree. I think most buildings, or basically every building, can meet a form of net zero carbon. They might not all be able to meet a particular EUI target and energy target, but obviously, depending on the on-site circumstances, most buildings can go that way. But to me, I think if I look at what we define and what we say is a net zero carbon target, is at least it's a very energy efficient building. It's not just buying renewables. It must be a very energy efficient building. And the reality is that there's not enough renewables in the world ever to supply the building demand that exists today. So driving that energy saving is the first thing. And it's not impossible. It's just making sure that we get the right business models in place and that the market recognizes the value. And that starts to happen. So yeah,
I
the
mean,
answer is yes, it's possible.
yeah, I think there are different aspects. One is savings, and other is generation of energy. So I mean, the work is needed on both the sides, on the generation side and on the consumption side, right? I mean, coming to you, what's your opinion on net zero, especially especially in the region where you are? There is a lot of new construction happening. During the construction process itself, have you seen efforts taken where the whole process is changed to achieve net zero kind of a building?
Yeah, I agree with the ladies when it comes for what to call it. Either there is no data or there is no existing net zero buildings. Okay, we see a lot of effort when it comes, let's say, for reaching 50%, or let's say 60%, because the idea of, is there any data we can look at it? See, it's an ongoing process. Like today, when you say net zero, maybe tomorrow it will become like a profitable in terms of energy. Because I'm not just covering my requirement. No, I'm also producing more energy. I might sell it to other buildings on. So it comes for energy. It comes for, let's say, watering, or it comes for carbon. So today we need to look at the existing building or the existing real estate in terms of reaching 20%, 30%, 50%. Okay. The idea of what we call it, how much time it will take. We look at technology at a Bugatti car, which is very fast. You never know. It's just a matter of implementing one of those model, or implementing one of those buildings, and prove to the world that, see, this is what we can save. Because data, when it comes for this is what we hope, is that different than what we have. Okay, it's just the moment you provide the traction for these type of buildings, sure. We saw a couple of project here, we're reaching up to 50%. Okay. Again, we'll go back to the what you call the educational part of or let's say the adoption of the users, the adoption of the people for this. Okay, I'm open for this type of lifestyle. Okay, so it will happen. It will happen. It will not go in a decade. It will be faster than that.
Great. I think if you, that's very optimistic. If you think it's much faster than a decade, I think we have a 2050 as a target for net zero. So come to Shraddha, what's your take on net zero, especially from Schneider's point of view?
Yeah, I think from Schneider's perspective, I think it's definitely achievable. I mean, it's not that it's not, you know, it's not something that's achievable. And yes, it definitely requires a lot of effort, investment from all the angles to make sure that we are achieving the target. And I believe it's all from a net zero perspective, net zero carbon perspective, it's always working backwards. Like you have a target set and then you work backwards in terms of how that could be achieved, and then breaking it down into smaller milestones so that that can be achieved. Right. So once that's been kind of done, it is easier to reach towards the, you know, the net zero target. You're on mute, Rohan.
Sorry. Thanks. I'll follow on with you again, Shraddha, with my last question. This is more of an advice I'm asking for from you guys. As a startup founder, you know, startups, there are multiple startups doing work on sustainability in buildings. What would be your advice to or recommendations to startups who are trying to have an impact on sustainability?
Yes, so I think wherever I've come across, I think startups are doing a pretty good job in the real estate space in terms of coming up with a lot of innovative technologies. What advice that I would give also from sustainability perspective is, one is, of course, it has to be innovative, right? Dive more into the innovative space and how new technologies can come in from sustainability side, like carbon capture or anything like that. And it could also be retrofittable. Second, I would say it has to be simpler rather than making it more complex to understand or also to implement. You know, that it has to be backward compatible as well, so that it can integrate across. It has to be interoperable between systems, you know. And then, of course, it has to, it has to be easily available across, different stakeholders, and, work with multiple legacy systems as well.
Great. I mean, the great takeaways for me, interoperable, retrofittable, says some great learning points for me to take a note of. LK, what's your advice to startups who are trying to have an impact on sustainability?
Well, I think it comes down to a lot of the points I've already mentioned, but simplicity is definitely a key part in this. I think that is something that's always outstanding. I used to say in competitions, like, dumb it down, because actually that's enough. Having people that truly understand the business and the processes tremendously helps in having the conversations and building the trust with your buyers. I think that is important. Like, it's great to have a lot of data, but how do you apply that is something that you need often at least someone that understands how a building works and how the people within the buildings work together as well. So have people that know the business, that truly know the business. I think that's one of my key advice. And then maybe not how to change the industry, but more how to make sure that you survive and your own sustainability is, don't waste time on people that just want to learn. And make sure that you meet the right people in a company, and also make sure that it's not just a pilot that you do. I think we've seen a lot of startups doing pilots, but not getting to commercialization. So, and a pilot is great, and you might get a little bit of money, but when it comes to actual full deployment, a lot of the developers particularly tend to fall back to the technologies that they know, or you would not pass the procurement criteria. At the moment, it's full implementation. So make sure that you know what's going to be the next step.
Yeah, I think the final one was a great advice for startup founders. Yeah, we always get thrown pilots at us, which we have to do, right, to get business. So, I mean, what's your advice to startups who are trying to have an impact on sustainability in buildings?
Well, I have agree with the ladies in what they mentioned. It's simplicity is a part. I always sit with the guys and tell them, guys, we don't need to go outside of the box. There's so much problems inside the box to look at. You get the point. Well, if just we look around, we find so much problem solved. Collaboration. Okay. You solve one part. There's another startup somewhere in the world solving another part. Together, we're solving a big part. So collaboration is adding very, very good value, and also support as a startup where you provide a package, not only one side. So as Elka said, like as asset management or landlord, I come up with a package. Package will cover different sustainability solution in one time, where investors will not think, okay, should I go with this startup or with this startup? No, one package, one time, okay, one solution. So stick inside the box.
Great. Thanks for that perspective. Sandhya, coming to you last but not the least, what's your advice to startups?
What I would say is we should look at both the footprints and handprints while looking for solutions. There are plenty of solutions ahead of us. I think we should be clever enough to pick the right one. Maybe a simpler one, as Shraddha also mentioned, that can create multiple impacts if it is affordable or scalable, or it is accessible by more and more people. I think that will have a more impact. Consider comparing it to a good solution, but it is not accessible by many industries or many employees, anybody for that matter. If it is not accessible, I don't think we can create that much of an impact. And also, it is not only about technology, it could be nature-based solutions, or it could be just fine-tuning the processes or the protocols within the existing ecosystem. That also can have a positive impact. Just to quote one example here, at Space Matrix, we have taken a conscious step to handle our construction waste in the project sites. So this, we realized that this is kind of an ignored area in the project design or construction process. So as a conscious step, we partnered with the waste management company, and this is going to create both resource conservation as well as climate impact. So we are diverting a lot of waste from the landfill, hence the GHG emission related to that will be reduced. At the same time, we are looping those materials back to the circular economy, or the trying to create that closed loop. So of course, startups can explore more and more technological solutions, but we can't ignore very minute corrections in the existing processes can also have better impacts.
Great. Thanks, Sandhya. I think this has been a great discussion. We can go on and on. I myself had a huge amount of takeaway and learning, simplicity, retrofitting, thinking inside the box, are a few important points which I noted down. And I'm really fortunate to be already working with some of the organizations here, JLL, Schneider, Space Matrix. Probably I will get in touch with Amin to see how we can have an impact on real estate. So thanks a lot for your time, and over to you, Pankaj, to the next part of the session.
Thanks a lot, Rohan, for being such a fantastic moderator. And I know that we got so much great insights from the panelists today. But I'm sure that the next part is going to be even more exciting, at least for me, because because this is a session when we as startup founders, we as startup ecosystem players get real brutal, honest feedback from the industry experts. And why we love to host these roast sessions, LK, Sandhya, Shraddha and Amin, because most of the times when startup founders are pitching their solution to their customers or investors or partners, they get a very sugar-coated BS, which doesn't help, right? And we are always struggling to get that brutal, honest feedback using which we can learn, improve, and grow because of that feedback. So why don't we do this, Rohan? Please start sharing your screen. Please start talking about Spintly, the solution, the go-to-market strategies, and let's get some honest feedback from the panelist. Yeah, please go ahead.
Great. I'm presenting your screen. Is it visible? Yeah. Great. Spintly is a IoT platform which is enabling a sustainable future for the built world. We are a mobile first, cloud first, and wireless first IoT platform. Current focus is on access control. We are disrupting physical access control to buildings. But first of all, why did we choose to focus on buildings? Because we all know 40% of CO2 emissions comes from the built world. And if you want to achieve net zero by 2020, it's already a challenge, right? Just achieving it by 2050 is a challenge, is what we feel. And there are a lot of challenges, right? And as I spoke during the panel, existing buildings themselves need to become sustainable. That's the biggest challenge. Why the transition to buildings, smart buildings is slow? Smart buildings is what is going to drive sustainability, right? It's all about collecting data, using that data to optimize operations. Today, buildings use building BMS systems, building automation systems, which use a specific kind of an architecture, which is a centralized architecture. There is a controller, there are sensors, and there are actuators. Sensors collect the data, send it to the controller. Controller makes some decisions based on that sensor data, right? And controls an actuator. Now, if you want to make buildings sustainable, you want more sensors, more devices, right? If you want to deploy these many devices in this architecture, that itself is unsustainable. You have to run cables and wires, right? So what we developed is a different architecture where sensors and actuators form a mesh network in buildings. Sensors can talk to actuators. Sensors can make their own decisions. There are no controllers in this architecture, right? Sensors and actuators make their own decisions based on the data they see. For instance, if sensor like a motion sensor or a temperature sensor sees more temperature, it can directly talk to the damper saying that, hey, you need to blow in more cold air, right? And that's the architecture which we have developed. It's a distributed architecture. There is an IoT gateway at the edge, which talks to the cloud. And using a cloud-based system, now you can manage your entire building. With this architecture, you can keep adding sensors without having to invest more in the backend infrastructure, wired infrastructure. These are all wireless sensors which talk to each other. And with this architecture, we launched our first use case, access control, where we developed wireless readers. Instead of readers talking back to controllers, the readers themselves make decisions of opening doors for users. You can use your phone to get into the building instead of cards. So we eliminate plastic badges completely, and we digitize your access. It's a fully cloud-based solution where the software is on the cloud. It integrates with your existing software systems and completely automates your access management workflow. Our core focus is eliminating physical modes of access like cards, keys, badges. We move that into your phone and enable smart access for commercial and residential buildings. We are in the market today. We currently secure almost 4,000 doors. Almost 200,000 users use our solution today. 300 plus customers have adopted our solution. We do almost 4 million door openings every month using our platform. We work with some large real estate companies, which include names like JLL, Brookfield Properties. We work a lot of co-working spaces we work with. We've eliminated a lot of plastic badges, also eliminated a lot of cabling for these customers as they've adopted our solution. We've also been able to develop a lot of partnerships in the industries with large security companies, building automation companies, locking companies where we license our technology. We also work with silicon companies. to co-develop technologies, right, together, so that we can make this into an interoperable standard. There was a lot of discussion about how to make these systems interoperate, right? So that can be only done by using the right wireless standards. For example, we use a standard called Thread protocol, which was developed by Google, and it's an open standard for smart devices in smart homes to talk to each other. We are making use of this standard in smart buildings, so that devices can interoperate with each other, irrespective of who makes these devices, right? In terms of impact we have had or benefits we offer to our customers, we've so far eliminated 250,000 plastic badges, which would have been issued otherwise to employees and users. We've eliminated 1,000+ miles of cables in buildings by adopting a wireless mesh solution for access control. Using complete automated workflows, we reduce operational cost by 30%. And we are impacting occupancy in buildings by increasing it by 20% by giving data on occupancy in buildings. In the commercial space, we offer solutions to office, tech parks, co-working spaces is our sweet spot. We work with a lot of large co-working spaces, data centers, hospitals, universities, fitness centers. So wherever there is a movement of a lot of people, we operate in those kind of real estate establishments and streamline access to those spaces. We also operate in multifamily residential communities where we streamline access to apartment units, common area access, vehicle entries, fitness centers and everything within the apartment communities, right? And mainly move all the access into your smartphone. This not just makes it convenient, it also makes it more secure and also improves traceability and audit trails, right? You now have a log of what's happening in your building. These are our offerings as part of our software solution. Access management is our core offering. It's all about access to spaces. So certain people can have access during certain times to certain rooms. That's what you can do with that. Visitor management is another module which allows visitors to pre-register, gain access to office spaces or buildings. Time and attendance is a layer which we have built on top of our access management, where we can now give data about attendance to the employers, so they can manage the whole workforce. We use the access data to calculate attendance. Tenant management is a module which we offer to large landlords which manage large properties, right, where there are multiple tenants using these buildings. So that's another module which we offer. Space management is a new model which we are launching, where now we give occupancy data, so you know how your space is being used. This is used for meeting room bookings, and you can now optimize your utilization of your spaces. And we offer a lot of integrations, right? We have open APIs and SDKs which can integrate with your existing software system. So we generate a lot of data. We offer that data to other software systems to ingest this data. We also have intercom systems which we integrate with. We have a soft intercom, or we have video intercom devices which we integrate with. We integrate with a lot of third-party devices and bring them on our platform. We work with lock companies. We license our technology to a lot of lock companies, and locks also are part of an access control solution in a larger building. We have commercial locks as well as residential locks, which are powered by battery. We enable mobile access, and we offer remote management for these locks. We also integrate with camera systems. We work with large camera vendors and have partnered with them. These are we bring on AI-based cameras onto our platform, where we correlate camera data with access control data to provide intelligence to property managers. We detect events, security flaws using camera data, and provide a better security for buildings. Our team consists of me, Malcolm, who are the co-founders. Santosh is heading our sales for India, Asia Pacific. We are about an 80-member team, engineering based out of India. We have operations in India, Middle East, and US. I'm based out of US. Matthew heads our sales for the US region. And we have some great set of investors and advisors who've been part of our journey and support us all along and advise us. Looking forward to your questions and answering any doubts or any suggestions which you have.
Thank you, Rohin. Let's see if there are questions. Please feel free to unmute yourself. Yeah, LK, please.
Can I start with a comment?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
You're in sustainability, right? And one of the components is the social and diversity. Add a woman on your last page.
Sorry.
Add a female on the team. No, I know it's a small thing, but actually we start to see that also in our vendor policies, for example, we actually have diversity targets. So having a lady on the team actually is not a is
I'll
something that
interrupt you there. I'd say 60% of our workforce is female, 40% is male. So,
but not in your management team.
yeah, my wife,
That's a very common thing.
part of the company. Yeah, she's a
And
product
then
manager.
I believe you. I believe
Yeah.
you. It's but it's just something that I noticed beside all the other
That's
things.
a fantastic comment, LK. I completely appreciate and agree with that. That we need to have more females in the management, right? So Rohin, probably we need to work on that in the next set of presentations. So thanks a lot, LK. Yeah.
So I come originally from the oil and gas industry, so I'm not as fuzzy normally, which is something that popped up a few times this week actually. I'll give some space to others before I say more.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Linda, please go ahead.
Yeah. So it was heartening to see the active solutions that you spoke about when it comes to HVAC and lighting, because we always at least see in the beginning of the discussions that only monitoring solutions are considered, not the active solutions. So this is a great piece. But what is the business model and how it would work?
Yeah, I mean, our current focus is access control. And if the business model is subscription based for the software offering for every device. So it's a per device per year fee, which we charge. And for hardware, we just sell the hardware through our channel partners. So typically customers upgrade their buildings, retrofit them, right? So they'll invest in these systems, hardware systems, and then pay a running cost for the software, right? That's the business model. So I would like to admit that today the impact on sustainability we are having is through elimination of badges and saving on cabling. But what we are really doing is we are setting up a backbone for wireless mesh communication in the building, right? Which is going to empower the building to become more and more sustainable in the future through deployment of sensors in the building.
Okay. So would you also be having some dashboard which would clearly display the impact so that the users are aware of the situation better?
Yeah, so
Emissions saved or water saved, all of that?
yeah, so we haven't started integrating a lot of other sensors. The sensors we have currently integrated into our platform are temperature sensors which monitor temperatures of different areas. So we provide that data and then provide notifications if the temperature is too high in a particular zone. And those are also our access zones, right? So we also provide occupancy data. So we correlate occupancy and temperature data and provide that insight. We recently started integrating water flow sensors and leak sensors. This is mainly for multifamily communities. So we provide that data on our platform of if there is a leak which is detected, that is a notification which is sent out to the property managers. Yeah, so we continuously adding more and more analytics on our dashboards. Current analytics is mainly focused on occupancy and access to spaces.
So I think there is a scope for environmental impact also to be clearly displayed, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we continuously evolving our dashboards as we ingest more and more data into our platform.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, please go ahead, Shraddha.
yes. So Rohit, so I'm just picking up from what Sandhya asked some time back. So you're saying that your business model is that you go with software and the hardware deployment is done by the partners,
Yes.
right? So if something goes wrong, who should the customer get connected with?
So the channel partners are the first line of defense. So they own the customers, and we give them the tools to support the end customers. We provide trainings to our channel partners on how to install our systems, set up our systems, and so that's how the business is set up. So I mean that's the only way we can see ourselves scale to a global scale, right? Where we develop these channel partnerships.
Okay, okay. So the channel partner is the face of to the customer.
Yeah, so these are typically, I mean, you are from the smart buildings industry. So system integrators are the people who put these solutions together, right? System integrators will put in fire alarm systems, access control, cameras, everything together, right? So they provide the initial support, right? And then we provide them the training.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about like, of course, access control, how are you taking care about the compliances, wherever possible, GDPR and
Yeah.
security aspects and all of that?
Yeah, so we are a cloud-based software company. Fully, our data is on the cloud, so we have to strictly follow data privacy laws based on the region where we operate. For example, in Europe, it is GDPR. In US, in California, is CCPA. In India, there is a new bill which just got passed for privacy, data privacy in India. So we follow those. We have already gone through certification processes. We are SOC 2 compliant, type 2 compliant already. Our platform is. So that is in terms of privacy. In terms of security, we use standard protocols which use encryption. We use network layer encryption keys and application layer encryption key to encrypt our data in the wireless mesh communication so that nobody can spoof our data or hack into our systems, right? We also use encryption between the cloud and our gateway devices, and also between the phone and your readers. We use encryption to secure the communication.
Okay, okay. And then how about integration with, say, fire and all that?
Yeah, so these are very country specific. So that is regulations. Like in India, the regulations are different. So we integrate with fire panels in India very easily. We have wireless mesh devices called mesh IO devices, which can plug into a fire panel and detect any events, and then trigger unlocks on all the doors, right?
Now, does it
That's
integrate with the existing fire system you're saying, or
yes,
is this
we can integrate with the existing systems. Yes.
and
So it's
what
a relay
input
contract.
does it give to the fire? It's a relay.
So we read the relay from the fire panel, right? So whenever there is a smoke detector which goes off, there is a relay which is false, right? And which is usually used by access control in a hardwire system. What we do is we read that relay and then over a mesh network unlock all the doors, right? And we make it fail safe that in case something goes wrong, the doors unlock, right? So if anything goes wrong when there is no fire, if somebody manually turns off the panel or something, the doors will unlock, right? So that's how we got approval for our systems in India. Now in the US, it's different, right? The norms are different. The fire codes are different. So we have to deal with local fire laws when it comes to fire alarm system integrations.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shraddha, for the question. LK, Amin, any other question or comment or guidance for Rohan? Yeah, please.
Thank you. In terms of, let's say, we discuss the expanding plan, like for you today, if you want to expand different region, different market, you mentioned something for me, it's interesting, which is you increase 20% occupancy rate. Can I know how? it help in increasing the occupancy rate. And when it comes for the sales, you do direct sales or like you have a channel partner with how is the expanding plan when it comes for, let's say, Middle East?
Sure. So I'll take the first question in terms of occupancy. So we are an access control company, so we know who has come into which space, right? So we keep a track of that, and we give a real-time analytics on of how many people are in a particular space. That gives you an occupancy data. But in terms of increasing occupancy and monetizing, so we actually even help monetize spaces where, for example, co-working spaces have a lot of empty spaces like meeting rooms or areas where they want to be able to let people use them, but also pay for it, right? So they have developed a software on top of our system, access control, where if you book a space, only then you have access to that space and you have to pay for that space. So it ensures that, people who are paying for that space are able to use it. So that's how we are able to increase occupancy, monetize spaces, right, using our platform. In terms of our expansion plans, we usually operate through channel partners. So we work with local channel partners who understand the market, who understand the regulations of that region, especially system integrators, right? Who integrate a lot of building systems together, and we partner with them, and then we execute projects with them, right? So in the Middle East region, we have started recently. We have partnered with a couple of integrators, but yeah, we're looking to expand more in this region as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Amin.
Can I add one more question here? So,
Please.
Rohin, we have seen a lot of similar solutions in the market or in the industry, right? So why one should consider Spintly? Why it is so very different from anything, or what is
Yeah.
the use?
Yeah, there are a lot of companies offering mobile-based access today, right, to buildings. It's about what's under the hood, right? What's the architecture? For example, let's take an example. There are so many auto companies, right? What's unique about Tesla or an electric car? It's the guts of how the system works, right? So our guts are wireless, right? So our backend is full wireless, right? So that's the key differentiator, and that has an impact on sustainability. That's the only way we see that buildings will communicate with the cloud, or the sensors will talk to each other, is through wireless mesh network, right? We see that wireless mesh is going to be the backbone of buildings, right? Instead of a huge bunch of cables running back to a server room, correct? Especially for IoT applications. I do agree that, certain use cases will need cables. For example, video data is still going on cables like Ethernet or PoE interfaces, right? But that also will become wireless. So I feel that focusing on wireless is what differentiates us in the market today.
Okay. So one more thing. So all these will lead to a lot of e-waste, right? So do you have anything in mind to address that as a responsible? Yeah, e-waste, electronic waste, right? As we
Yeah.
use more and more electronics.
Actually, we are reducing the electronics as compared to a central controller-based architecture, right? Because controllers are actually a huge piece of hardware which is sitting in your building automation room. If you just eliminate that, you are actually eliminating that hardware as well as freeing up that room to be used for something else. And your sensors are making the decision. So actually, we reduce the hardware. In terms of recycling, I think at this point, all we can do as a hardware company is increase the life of the hardware, right? Where we develop robust hardware systems which will last for tens of years. And then at the end of it, you'll have to follow standard recycling processes for electronic waste, right? But the best thing is how small can you make the electronics so that the amount of waste is less, right? And that can be only done through innovation on the architectures, right? Making it more wireless, less cables. I mean, if you look at e-waste, if you're just connecting two devices in a building, which are say a door and a building automation room, which is sitting in the basement, you're probably running a 400 feet cable, right? the waste of that cable is way more than just the electronics which it is connecting to, right? The amount of copper which is going into that cable, right? So just imagine if you can eliminate that cable, that's a huge impact, right, on sustainability.
Okay, thanks.
Maureen, can I ask you a question? What do you see as your solution? Is it the IoT platform with the mesh network, or is it the use cases? What is it that you're selling?
Yeah, we have two offerings, right? We have a access control solution offering, which is our vertical, where we enable access. But our other offering is our horizontal IoT platform for device-to-device mesh communication, right? Our access control solution is an use case built on our IoT platform, right? So our long-term plan is to scale our IoT platform for other use cases in buildings. That's the goal of the company.
And do you intend to build the use cases yourself, or are you just there to provide the platform, the hardware, and then let other people build the solutions, the use cases?
Yeah, we want to provide just the technology, which is this stack. We don't even want to build the hardware. Hardware will be built by our hardware partners, and we will be the middleware IoT platform for these solutions. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I see a lot of clarifying questions, but I don't see any roasting yet. So I
Well,
can
maybe the
nice to
roasting. I can name it a roasting. I think, to be honest, I think what I struggled with was, what is the solution? What are you selling? What is it that you're bringing to the market? And I understand that it's hard to sell an IoT platform, right? So it's easier to sell it with a use case on it. But also the target audience is very different if you're trying to sell a IoT platform versus a solution. So maybe that is something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. I think I completely agree. Actually, we started off with trying to sell the platform. We couldn't sell it, right? Because nobody wants a platform, everybody wants a solution. That's why we developed an access control solution on our platform, which we are able to sell very easily because that's a specific problem use case which we are solving. But what that gives us is that gives us entry into the building. We are in the buildings now, right? And now we are able to tell our customers that, hey, why don't you plug in this sensors? You already have the network. We'll give you this data, right? We'll give you more intelligence, right? So now we are able to leverage our platform.
Okay, that's a fantastic backstory, Rohin. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot, LK, for pinpointing on that. Any other recommendations, any other guidance for Rohin on the product roadmap, on the go-to-market strategy, on the kind of partners that they should be onboarding, or anything of that sort, or probably on messaging?
If you allow me just to, one of the things which today we think what we could think big, start small. So let's say as today, you want to expand in the market and cover multiple buildings in one, let's say, city. So how is the practical for as a user? Okay, see the adoption in terms of like user experience. I'm going to use it different users or different cards for different buildings, or how you can look in terms of encouraging also other buildings, which if you come up with the network, if you enter the network, is there, it's like, what's in it for me as a user or as a building? Like, would you offer anything in return? Maybe using this part of solution plus get benefit, not only just to use it.
There are different stakeholders, like, so there is the user who is accessing the building, and that's where the user experience part comes in, where we are able to digitize access and just issue one credentials which you can use across buildings, right? So you don't have to carry multiple badges, and so we're greatly improving the user experience to the point where we can push your card into your wallet, like your digital wallet, right? Apple Wallet or your Google Wallet, right? So you don't have to have an app. So your credit card is already moved in your wallet, you know. Why should your badge be a physical badge, right? So greatly improves the user experience for the users. For property managers, it's all about ease of operations, right? So in a day, if there are, say, in a co-working space, for example, in a day there are 100 new users who are just coming to rent a space. Do you have to hand over a physical badge to them? That's a huge operational overhead for the front desk. Can that be completely digitized, right? The whole experience. So I mean, it's all about user experience for different stakeholders along the journey, right?
Does that answer your question, Amin, or you're on mute?
It's the idea of what we mentioned right now. Let's say, for example, 100 user, or like from a property perspective, property manager perspective. So the user experience the badge. So for the property manager of issuing, it's like I just want to understand like how is the process will be. It's like by coming to the office, add it to your mobile, or like send it by email as an invitation. They will download it.
So you can directly receive an email. We can completely automate the workflow, right? So for example, there is a booking system. The user has already booked a seat. He will already receive an email with the badge in his email, right? So he'll just say, add this badge to my wallet, and he will come to the building. He doesn't have to meet anybody because he already has the access, right? So it can be fully automated, the whole workflow. In case of employee onboarding, we integrate with your email system. Like if you are using Microsoft Active Directory, we will integrate with that. So as soon as an employee email is created, we can trigger a badge to be issued to him for specific buildings, right? Based on his job role or whatever, right? So the whole automation can be done. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay.
What is the
Yeah.
value, the ROI that the solution brings to the table?
So there are two kinds of customers. Like one is a greenfield and then there's a brownfield, right? That is existing buildings, right? In greenfield, you directly see about 80% savings on infrastructure costs because of wiring and cabling, which you can save because of a wireless mesh architecture, right? So you directly get 85% savings on hardware infrastructure. And in terms of running cost, you're eliminating badges for your users. That's direct cost savings. Typically around $50 is spent per user per year just managing badges. This is more of the global data. So you're saving on that cost plus issuance and from operational point of view, you're saving the cost, right? And then for co-working spaces, we are able to improve occupancy and be able to start monetizing spaces better by using access control, right? So there you can increase your revenues. For example, co-working spaces can start increasing their revenues by 20% by increasing the occupancies.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. Whenever we hear about, say, smart solutions or automation, there is a taboo around job insecurity in the market, right? Are you trying to address something in that when you are taking it to the next level?
No, I think technology is bound to disrupt different industries. I mean, with AI, I mean, we are probably a small fish here trying to just, improve user experiences. I think with the AI, you may feel that, everybody's job is at a risk today. But I think that's not going to happen. That has happened over and over again. Jobs evolve. You do better work, you do more efficient work, and you do better things, right? Instead of wasting time on mundane stuff.
Yeah, I think that was very comforting to hear.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, thanks everybody. It has been very, very fantastic, very insightful. And I know that, Rohin got some key takeaways on how the industry is evolving, on his pitch itself, where we need to, focus on the messaging or probably, modify the messaging a bit, improvise it a bit, and so on and so forth. So again, really appreciate your feedback on Spintly pitch as well. I think this is just the beginning. We should definitely reconnect in the next few weeks or months and see how we can collaborate, how we can support each other. I know Rohin is already working with Space Metrics, JLL, and Schneider in different parts of the world, probably not with you directly, and probably there could be a possibilities of connecting this. And probably there are possibilities of connecting again and figuring out those other possibilities. So again, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your time, and let's reconnect soon. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure talking to you, and looking
Thank
forward
you.
to connecting again.
Take care, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.